The Teamsters settlement is our lead story tonight. The deal announced today settles an unprecedented government suit to seize control of an entire union, the 1.6 million member International Brotherhood of Teamsters. The settlement was reached just hours before the case was to go to trial in New York City. The suit charged the Teamsters were dominated by organized crime through a campaign of fear, extortion, theft, and murder. U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani said this when the suit was filed last June.
Organized crime's use of the Teamsters Union as a weapon in its arsenal is a fact well known to many, if not most, Americans. In this lawsuit, the United States government intends not only to prove that fact, but to finally remedy it. The Mafia's use of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters as a racketeering enterprise is a perversion of the noble and laudable goals of trade unionism in America. Today, the United States government is bringing a lawsuit to attack and to reverse, once and for all, a major American scandal, organized crime's alliance with the Teamsters.
The Teamsters and others saw the Justice Department's suit as an all-out assault on their independence and the independence of all organized labor. A full-page Teamsters ad in this Sunday's New York Times was captioned, "The first time in the history of our nation and our Constitution that the government is attempting to seize an international labor union." It went on to charge the Teamsters were facing its greatest challenge, one that threatened its existence as a free labor organization and set a dangerous precedent for the entire American labor movement. Here with us tonight to explain today's settlement of this case is Ken Crow, who has been covering this story for the Long Island newspaper Newsday. Ken, the government sought control of the union in its lawsuit. Did it get it in the settlement?
No, it certainly didn't get control of the union, but it opened a window into the union in the form of three persons who are appointed for the next 2 years to investigate any allegations of corruption in the union, to hear those charges, and to set up a system of the secret ballot election of delegates to the next union convention, something that the reformers in the Teamsters Union have sought for years.
All right, now all of the things that the government alleged going in, fraud, extortion, murder, theft, all of those things, how does this settlement stop that?
Well, the laws on the books really were designed to stop that, and they've been fairly effective through the years. There have been hundreds of convictions of Teamster leaders, and they have been removed from office when convicted. This takes it one step further, perhaps, and no one is certain about this yet, but perhaps that the various organized crime figures, they're actually crime soldiers who are officials of local Teamster unions in the New York area, perhaps these new combination government Teamster appointees will be able to do something about them. That remains to be seen, however.
Yeah. Okay, the leadership of the existing leadership of the Teamsters Union, what happens to them under this agreement?
Well, under this agreement, at the next convention, the delegates will nominate all of the national offices to be elected by the rank and file at their local unions. So conceivably, all of those officials could be re-elected. But we have something else going on in the Teamsters now, which is very healthy from a democratic point of view. You have two factions, one led by the majority faction led by Teamsters President William McCarthy, and a minority faction led by Secretary-Treasurer Weldon Mathis of the Teamsters. So presumably they'll be fighting for control of the union, and that will lend a new aura of democracy and openness to the elections.
And one of the key parts of the settlement is to make sure that the democratic processes are followed. Is that right?
That's right. That's one of the three persons to be appointed to in effect, oversee the union, is to certify that the election process is honest and is followed. And after the convention, there'll be a three-member review board. One review board member will be appointed by the Teamsters, one by the government, and those two appointees will then appoint the third person. And their role will be to ferret out corruption and expose it both to the Teamster hierarchy and to the public.
But there's nothing in here that would prevent the rank and file from electing or re-electing any official, no matter what their record was. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So
the Teamster reformers, the Teamsters for a Democratic Union, they've been around for about 12 years and have been the reform movement. They've greeted this with joy because they feel that the answer to cleaning up the Teamsters is democracy, is the electoral process.
All right, now, as a practical matter, under this arrangement, who will actually run the union from this day forward? Will that change any?
won't change at all. It will still be run by William McCarthy, the president of the union, and the other 17 members on the Teamsters General Executive Board.
Yeah. So the control of the union does not change.
It doesn't change at this moment, although you'll have those one of those three appointees will be an investigator, and he'll be investigating allegations of corruption and leads provided by union members and the public.
And so if he should come up with something, what are the options he has? He just goes, he can prosecute these people through the normal course of human events, or is there a special procedure?
The process is that one of the other two appointees is called an administrative officer, and he will hear the charges against an individual. And if the administrative officer will have the power to remove the official charged and convicted from office. Yeah. And that official then will have recourse to Judge David Adelstein, the district court judge who sat on this case.
Yeah. I've thrown around the term unprecedented a couple times already in connection with this story. This truly is an unprecedented thing, is it not?
It certainly is. Yeah. No one has ever attempted to take over a major national union before, and this is the second largest, not the largest, the second largest union in the United States. Yeah. The largest is the National Education Association.
Yeah. All right. What caused the government, and the Teamsters too, it takes two to tango, or to settle as it does to tango, what happened this morning or last night or in the last few days that it became obvious to both sides that there was a need to settle?
Well, perhaps it was the thoughts of a 7-month trial and the government uncertainty of winning this case. They tried to bring a similar case against the union that covers the Fulton Street Fish Market, and they lost dramatically. And Joe Ceratola, who's better known as Joe T., who's the most powerful Teamsters union official on the East Coast and in New York City, he told me that the reason he was agreed to settle was to save millions upon millions of dollars that a 7-month trial would entail, and he felt that the government settled because the government, while it freely threw around allegations, didn't have the evidence to prove the case.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I think it was a toss-up. I really do. I think it could have gone either way. There certainly has been a lot of corruption in the Teamsters over the years, but the men who sit on the board, the General Executive Board of the Teamsters today, have very little background in corruption or any unsavory practices or charges against them.
So for the Teamsters, I don't know how to put this any other way than the way I'm going to put it, but for the Teamsters who are clean, they have nothing to fear from this settlement. Is that right?
Certainly not. It's a boon to the union.
Yeah. The ones who are not clean, the process is now in the works so these people could be eliminated, but that's not even for sure.
That's not even for sure.
Yeah, and the government, it didn't get the whole loaf, but it got what, half a loaf, 2/3 a loaf?
I'd say they got about 25% of a loaf. The government wanted to remove 5 or 6 of the international vice presidents of the Teamsters. This suit remains silent on that. They're not being removed. They're certainly not being removed. Yeah. I know that. And the government wanted to impose a court-appointed watchdog who would really, in effect, control the union, and they failed in that.
Yeah. Finally, this thing has, a settlement has a process that's supposed to take how long? 3 years, is that right? Where everything is supposed to then be all clean and move on without all of this supervision?
Well, it only moves to the next convention in 1991 with those first three appointees, and after that there is a continued review board that will be built into the Teamsters Constitution and continue ad infinitum.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for being with us and explaining this to us.
Thank you.
Charlene?